This program contains graphic violence and sexual situations. Viewer discretion is advised. Over a terrifying 5-month period between 1977 and 1978, 10 pretty young women are strangled to death, their naked corpses dumped in California's Hollywood Hills.
We got a call from the coroner saying, hey, we've got another female that's been strangled.
The killing spree begins with 3 prostitutes desperately trying to survive on the harsh streets.
They could get away with it, and it was easy, and it became a game.
But soon, girls from comfortable middle-class neighborhoods are abducted and horrifically murdered.
Tortured them, strangled them, and had sex with them.
Los Angeles residents are gripped in terror. Before the killer is caught, 12 young women meet their fate at the hands of what the media dubs the Hillside Strangler.
What no one knew was that it wasn't just one killer, it was 2.
One is a handsome newcomer to the City of Angels and a smooth-talking scam artist. The other, a degenerate who relishes creative forms of torture.
They were pretending to be police.
Just like 2 police officers identify themselves.
This was a game. They were in it for the thrill killing.
Meet Kenneth Bianchi and Angelo Bono. 2 sadistic cousins with an astonishing ability to elude the law until murder made them famous. In the fall of 1977, the media war in LA for the City of Angels had a demon in its midst.
In Los Angeles, 11 women have been killed by a man known to the police as a Hillside Strangler.
It was a local story, it was a national story, and it was a fascinating story.
Broadcast coast to coast, the national nightly news reported on the latest victim of the Hillside Strangler, sometimes less than a week apart.
Young women were being found dead, strewn across the Hollywood Hills, and LA was on high alert.
The gruesome killings were front-page headlines.
There was a media frenzy.
My daughter was the same age as those victims, and I was panic-stricken.
Books that delved into the psyche of the killers have been written since.
It was such a crazy murder spree that several Hollywood movies have been made about it.
And the media buzz around the Hillside Stranglers was so intense that it initiated several copycat killings.
When police finally pieced together the clues, the outcome is almost as shocking as the crimes.
The origins of this horrifying story can be traced back to Rochester, New York in 1951. Kenneth Bianchi is born to a 17-year-old prostitute and alcoholic who gives him up for adoption. His relationship with his adoptive mother is reportedly strained, cold, and unaffectionate.
Being the child of a prostitute and being raised by a woman who's an angry, controlling woman, I think all were part of his anger towards women and his anger at having been abandoned by his original mother.
The stresses of his early childhood begin to manifest themselves physically when Kenneth turns 5. He begins going into trance-like states, with his eyes rolling back into his head.
He was apparently diagnosed with petit mal syndrome, which is really rare. And the seizures start suddenly, and they're often mistaken for daydreaming. When Ken was going through these episodes, his father was working as a foreman at a foundry. He died when Ken was just 13 years old.
Kenneth shows a little outward emotion after his father's funeral service.
He was raised by a very controlling, domineering mother. He was taught in school by authoritarian nuns. He competed in school with girls he felt were very competitive and aggressive. And he constantly struggled with these angry impulses, aggressive impulses towards women.
Upon graduating high school, Ken aspires to become a police officer. But after failing entrance exams, he settles on being a security guard.
That job as a security guard didn't last for very long, because Ken was fired for stealing the very merchandise that he was hired to protect. But Ken wasn't the only member of his family who showed signs of early criminal behavior.
Out west in Glendale, California, Kenneth's older cousin, Angelo Bono Jr., lives with his mother and sister. Angelo had met Ken just once many years before, and like his cousin, he exhibits troubling behavior as a youth. In addition to stealing cars, Angelo is a small-time thief. By the time Angelo turns 14, he routinely boasts to friends about raping and sodomizing women.
Angelo was obsessed with Carol Chessman, an old-time serial rapist. And that was just
prostitution. The girls were emotionally captured, so they were afraid to run away.
Bono Bianchi somehow hooked up with some of the main bureaucrats of the city, including the chief of police, and so on. People were serviced by Sabre. Apparently, Bono Bianchi made some money and shared a little love with Sabre.
The girls get some help from one of the high-powered Beverly Hills clients, and they finally escape. And that leaves Angelo and Ken desperate to find other prostitutes to work for them. And you gotta have clients. So to get those clients, the cousins bought a list of jobs, which were men willing to pay for sex.
The trick list, as it's called, is purchased from a couple of part-time prostitutes whom Ken and Angelo know from the streets. Shortly thereafter, the cousins check to see if they got their money's worth.
The list of jobs turned out to be bogus. The cousins were infuriated and went out to find the girls who sold it to them.
One of the girls is named Yolanda Washington, and she never expected that the con game she was playing could be a deadly one. Across town, Yolanda gets ready for work. At just 19 years old, she's turned to prostitution near Sunset Boulevard to supplement her income as a part-time waitress. When the cousins find Yolanda, they pretend that everything is fine and lure her into the car under the guise of turning a quick trick.
Bianchi was in the back seat with her, and he said that Bono gave him some kind of a sign.
Girls like that deserve to die. She's trying to sell us a no good business.
Life was tragically cut short before she could return to college.
On October 18, 1977, the wounded body of Yolanda Washington was found dumped on Hillside off the Virginia Freeway.
Fortunately, it's not something that happens to me. It's not. I'm sure that case for
Yolanda has been strangled to death, and ligature marks are visible on her wrists. She has also been raped.
They started out getting back at this one girl, Yolanda Washington, and then that was kind of fun, and they could get away with it, and it was easy, and it became a game, and then I think that kind of behavior may become almost addicting in its own way.
They had gotten their first taste of blood, and about 2 weeks after killing Yolanda Washington, they were searching for their next victim. And thus, their killing spree began.
Ken and Angela are just getting started.
This was a game between Bianchi and me. They were in it for the thrill killing.
It is the night before Halloween in 1977, and up and down Sunset Boulevard, young people head to parties.
It's also the night that Ken and Angelo pick out their next prey, 15-year-old Judith Lynn Miller. The high school student was a runaway with an alleged drug problem. She sold herself to feed her habit.
Listen, I gotta get out of here. It's getting late and I need to work. Okay. I got this.
About midnight, she stood on the curb and trying to attract attention to do a trick as a 15-year-old prostitute.
Hey, what have we here? Yeah, will do.
The cousins devise a ploy to get vulnerable young girls to trust them.
I'll make it right here and drop you off. There, wait at that bus stop right there.
With Ken out of the car, Angelo was a lot less threatening.
I'll be back. I'll be here.
So we headed back to Judy to pose as a potential customer.
They were pretending to be police. They started out dancing the prostitutes in Hollywood with that premise.
Judy still has no idea she's being kidnapped by killers.
We going to the Hollywood division?
Nope. Going to a special unit.
I ain't done it.
You've got to remember, this was a 15-year-old girl. She didn't have much life experience, so you can only assume that she was very confused and very, very scared.
Where are we?
She's at the satellite station I was telling you about. Take a seat.
They take the girl into the house. They had set him in one of those big easy chairs.
I got an idea.
and no indication that they're even connected.
Anymore, she was unidentified for 10 days. So she was still at the coroner's office when we got a call from the coroner saying, hey, we've got another female in here that's been strangled.
The bodies are starting to pile up, and the latest belongs to 21-year-old Lisa Caston, a waitress and part-time prostitute.
See these ligature marks?
It was obvious whoever killed our girl had killed Lisa Caston and vice versa. They had the exact same ligature marks on the neck, the ankles, and on the wrists. The ligature marks that we looked at were marks made either by a rope or a plastic tie, something like that. There was no doubt then that we at least had a killer out there that had killed 2 young ladies within a short span of time.
The killers have developed a signature, and it's not long before they apply it to their next 2 victims.
A 9-year-old boy found 2 innocent girls in a pile of trash near Dodgers Stadium. At first, he thinks that their bodies are mannequins.
Dolores Cepeda is just 12 years old, and her best friend Sonia Johnson, 14. They are abducted after getting off a school bus.
They tortured them, strangled them, and had sex with them, and then threw them in the dump at Legion Park. That, by the way, is only about 3 miles from Bono's and Folsom Street.
The cousins have sunk to a new low. They've gone from killing prostitutes to killing schoolgirls.
Ken and Angela are just getting started, and they're about to expand their hunting grounds even further. Christina Weckler, a quiet, intellectual 20-year-old honor student at the Pasadena Art Center College of Design, is finishing her class.
Christina was committed to have a bright future ahead of her until one fatal visit kept it.
She fell victim to this because of a unlucky day. She knew Bianchi prior because he lived in the same general facility that she did.
Hey there, remember me? Kenneth Bianchi. I used to live like 2 doors down from you in the same Publix. Oh, okay. Anyway, I'm part of the police reserves now here in Hollywood, and actually, I mean badge and everything. But I was out patrolling the old neighborhood, and I was wondering, do you still drive that VW down there? Yeah. Okay, well, don't get too upset, but it looks like someone crashed into it. Yeah, it's not super bad, but if you want to come down, we can fill out some paperwork and make it a lot easier to get some insurance on it.
Maybe Christina realized something wasn't right, and if she did, she went against her intuition.
Yeah, just real quick, it won't take too long. Let's drive down this way.
Once she was outside, her cousins forced her into their car.
They abducted her, took her back to Bono's upholstery shop, where most of the victims wound up.
Okay, you know what? I got another idea. Stay here. Don't worry.
Bored with simply strangling them to death, the 2 decide to experiment with various forms of torture.
The torture thing was sickening to put those girls through that. I can't imagine what it would have been like to be sitting in that damn chair in Bono's house.
On November 20th, 1977, 2 hikers stumble upon
that she has distinctive markings on the body.
The autopsy will reveal that these came from where the cousins injected her with window cleaner. But there are other markings that stand out too.
She did have what we refer to as 5-point ligature marks. They were distinctive. We had the ligature mark around the neck. We had the ligature marks on the wrist, which indicates they probably were tied, and the ligature marks on the ankles.
Detectives still have no idea who's responsible for these horrific crimes.
The police had dead girls on their hands, but had no idea that the crimes were related, let alone that there were two perpetrators and that they were related.
By now, the police know of 6 young women that have been horrifically murdered in the LA area. However, detectives Frank Salerno and Bob Grogan have a hunch there are 2 killers working together.
We felt that this was a 2-man operation. We contributed that to the bodies being carried to point A to point B. It would have taken 2 to do it.
Subsequent to that, received some information in regards to 2 people trying to make police stops.
Detectives now know that there are 2 men pretending to be police officers. And so far, that's about it.
Very difficult investigation to do. We had nothing.
As investigators struggle with the case, Ken Bianchi goes about his life. At this point, Ken is no longer living with Angela, but is with his now pregnant girlfriend, Kelly.
So get this, Ken and Angela are kidnapped, tortured, raped, and killing young women. And yet, Ken is coming home to his pregnant girlfriend who was carrying his child. He was never twisted.
$800? This rusty old hoop ain't even worth 80 cents. We gave you what was required. Now hand over the keys, you lie.
Not bad at all. Still needs a little work, but definitely getting there.
Jane King is a beautiful 28-year-old aspiring actress who is attending an acting class at the Church of Scientology.
Need a ride? Oh, no thanks. I'm gonna take the bus. Okay, bye.
Anyone who's driven in Los Angeles knows that traffic can be a real challenge. Jane usually tried to avoid that by taking the bus home after class.
Well, and Bianchi were cruising around. Franklin is just off of Hollywood Boulevard, Sunset Boulevard, where they had picked up a lot of the original prostitutes.
I feel like some fresh young thing. Blonde. Like, you see like shooting anytime? Okay. Maybe we can go to Malibu, Riverside. Nah, too far.
Well, what do we have here?
Yeah. Choice goods.
No choice.
The cousins spot the vulnerable young Jane and devise a devious ruse. ascribes the now infamous Hillside Strangler moniker.
Well, it was a name that really was designed almost to strike terror into the citizens of Los Angeles County.
There was a lot of fear in the air. People weren't safe, didn't feel safe at night.
My daughter was the same age as those victims, and I was panic-stricken. Of course, with the help of the newspapers, I mean, it was headlines. Los Angeles Times beat it to death. There were women buying guns. There were women taking all kinds of self-defense lessons to protect themselves, because there was a real panic in the city.
Day King was a case that came up during what we call the week that was. That's when things really started to break loose as far as the newspaper, the task force.
In all our victims' cases, we have the same ligature marks on every single victim, around the ankles, the wrist, and the neck. These victims still keep stacking up on us, and we have no information to go on. As you can see, this is getting more pressing and urgent day after day.
The task force had grown to 100 people. We had to have that many people because the clues that came, over 11,000. And those people all had to be follow-up and interviewed.
As a matter of fact, one of our investigators described themselves as clue clowns, just chasing clues, so they were clue clowns.
The task force questions numerous suspects, including Kenneth Bianchi.
We had some incidents where Bianchi's name was tossed about by people who worked with him in a title company.
A few days past Thanksgiving, 2-year-old Lauren Wagner was at home from a community college where she's making business ventures.
Lauren Wagner with her family out in the suburban part of San Fernando Valley. She graduated high school and was attending community college.
They had seen her, and they were following her. And they stopped her a house or two from her residence.
They pretended to be police officers.
You're under arrest. Come on, come with me. Come on, come with me.
Didn't do anything. I just live right there. Just let me talk to my dad. I didn't do anything.
Run, run.
I didn't do anything.
The witness lived in the house right where the car was parked. And she was the first witness who said she saw two guys. That confirmed our belief we had two suspects. Also, the car was Bianchi's Cadillac, which could look like a police car because it was blue and white.
Once inside the Cadillac, Lauren knows that she is in the hands of the Hillside Stranglers.
She reportedly didn't resist. Maybe she thought that would spare her life. But on the contrary, after they raped her, the cousins amped up their method of torture.
Time for something new.
With Wagner, they tried a little electricity.
I think Laura liked to torture people, liked to have sadistic type sex. I think Bianchi's main thrill was in killing people, taking their life, seeing them die.
Hillside Strangler victim number 8, Lauren Ray Wagner, is found dead the next day.
The all-American young girl was driving home. Following the night before the road for alleged traffic stop.
Exhibits inside meetings between customers and prostitutes. Unknowingly, they set up a rendezvous with Ken and Angela.
They sent her to an empty room at the Tamarind complex apartment that Bianchi and Bono accessed. She knew it right away. She knew it right away. This was a mistake.
Ken and Angela killed Kimberly and dumped her body like the others in the Hollywood Hills.
That was a spread eagle job overlooking City Hall. There was a message there, maybe.
The fear probably peaked after Kimberly Martin. It really exposed how powerless and how little the police knew. That's what scared people.
We'll always accept a lucky break. We're really appreciative of it. Lucky breaks help you crack them sooner.
shop. I can show you some different carpet swatches. Got them in here.
Cindy has no idea. She's walked right into the hands of two of the most sadistic killers in Los Angeles history.
They took care of her after that.
Where else have you lived?
February 1978, the murders suddenly stop and the trail goes cold. With the thrill of the kill starting to fade, paranoia sets in, and the cousins grow increasingly hostile toward each other.
Because they were getting away with murder, Ken Bianchi was getting more and more arrogant. And Angelo thought it was just a matter of time before Ken's big mouth gave them away.
At one point, it becomes so tense between the cousins that they almost kill each other.
Bianchi went to Highland Park's police station. He told the sergeant there, he said, "Hey, I'm thinking of becoming a policeman. I'd like to go on a ride-along." Well, the sergeant took him out. And then during a ride-along, Bianchi says to the sergeant, "Do you know where the locations are where the Hillside Strangler girls were dumped?"
Ken Bianchi goes back to Angelo Bono and tells him that he went on the ride-along with police.
Well, that blew it for Bono. According to Bianchi, Bono took his gun out and threatened to kill him. And he said, "You're out of my life." So he threw him out.
Now that the bitter cousins are at odds, Ken follows his girlfriend, Kelly, and their newborn son to Bellingham, Washington.
Ken was a new dad living in Bellingham, Washington with his girlfriend, Kelly. And he was putting on this air of respectability. But old habits die hard, and the con man decided it was time for a new career.
Ken rents a small office space, forges a few psychology degrees, and opens a counseling service. Little do his patients know they are telling the most intimate secrets to a cold-blooded killer.
Ken was getting tired of the good guy routine. He was addicted to the adrenaline that he had when he was killing and torturing women.
Since Ken had gotten away with the Hillside murders in tandem with Angelo, he's certain he's smart enough to pull it off as a solo act in Bellingham.
So Ken closed his counseling practice and started a new job that would be a perfect cover for his hellish plans.
He got a job as a security guard, and he became acquainted with some college girls.
Like, she's my friend, Diane. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Thanks for meeting me, guys.
Ken has lied to them, telling them that the security company wants them to watch the house for them. Once inside, Ken puts his plan into action.
Ken is in the basement, acting as if the lights don't work. Karen Mandage comes down to help the Stranglers.
Kenneth now has to deal with Karen's friend, Diane Wilder.
Mandage took her girlfriend along with him. But Mandage also told other people that Bianchi had offered her this job.
The next morning, their lifeless bodies are found stuffed into Karen's car, which has been abandoned at the end of a cul-de-sac. Police pieced together what had happened. Karen had told her boyfriend about the house-sitting job, and when they searched her apartment, they found a note with Ken's name on it. Police traced the note back to Ken's house.
What is going on here? Hold it. What is going on? Sir?
Placing you under arrest.
Police suspect they've apprehended someone with a long, horrific past.
We got a call from Bellingham, Washington. They wanted an inquiry as to an individual named Kenneth Bianchi. We ran his DMV and came back with addresses that connect him to Cindy Hudspeth and Christina Weckler. And I flew to Bellingham the next day.
We were elated, but we only got one guy. And now the work begins.
There were so many similarities between the killings in Washington and the Hillside Stranglings from 2 years earlier. So now all police had to do was to find Ken's accomplice, Angelo Bono.
The detectives went up to Bellingham to talk to Kelly Boyd, and they asked her the first question, "We think 2 people did these murders. Who's he hanging out with?" She said, "Well, that's pretty obvious. Angelo Bono, that's the only person."
Back in Los Angeles, Detectives get a search warrant to process Angelo's residence for evidence.
Police found carpet fibers from Angelo's place on the bodies. They also found a hair from one of the victims in Ken's house and a pubic hair from Ken on one of the victims.
Meanwhile, Ken is being held in jail where he maintains his innocence despite the evidence mounting against him. To bring Angelo to justice, the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office offers Ken a deal. If he pleads guilty to the Bellingham murders and some of the Hillside Stranglings, and also testifies truthfully against Angelo, he will get life with the possibility of parole.
He decided to plead guilty up there to 5 of our cases in order to testify against Bono and save him from the death penalty.
Ken's not going down alone and rats out his cousin Angelo. On October 22, 1979, Angelo is arrested at his Glendale home for his involvement in the Hillside Stranglers. Even with a plea deal, Ken tries to get off the hook.
He used tactics like pretending to have amnesia, and when he was under hypnosis, he showed signs of having multiple personalities.
I was told that there was a possibility that I had what's called a multiple personality, which means that there are 2 separate distinct personalities within the same body, I guess.
I got called by the prosecution after Ken Bianchi had been arrested in Washington. It was my opinion, from reviewing a large amount of data, records, police reports, Kenneth Bianchi's school records, hospital records, medical records, interviewing him over a period of 9 hours, and I reached an opinion that Kenneth Bianchi was not a multiple personality disorder, that he never was under a state of hypnosis.
I ultimately concluded, as a matter of law, Bianchi faked multiple personalities.
You know, I told you, killing abroad doesn't make any difference to me.
Ken is flown down to Los Angeles in the spring of 1982 to stand trial for the Hillside Stranglings, and the media circus ensues.
At the time, it was the most publicized case in Los Angeles criminal history.
The prosecution's case has to be painstakingly corroborated with witness accounts because so little physical evidence has been found.
The witnesses started with Beulah Stoffel, the woman who had watched Lauren Wagner's abduction. Then there was the last known witness to see Judy Miller alive. He had seen her from across the street as she was leaving the diner. And the tuft of fiber that was found on Judy Miller's eyelid from 2 years before.
So we didn't have a lot of physical evidence, but the little bit we did have, we were able to connect to Bianchi.
And investigators even hear from Catherine Laurie, daughter of famed actor Peter Laurie, that she had been targeted by Bono and Bianchi.
The cousins approached Catherine and flashed a badge at her. But when they realized that she was a famous celebrity's daughter, they let her go.
The trial includes testimony from 392 witnesses, 1,800 exhibits, and a transcript of 57,000 pages.
The case was in the newspaper records. He said it was professional.
The point was on TV, it was in the newspapers. And up until that point, it was probably the biggest case in California.
In the fall of 1983, after being on trial for over a year, Angelo Bono is found guilty of 9 murders. Kenneth Bianchi is charged in murders of 2 women in Bellingham and 5 murders in Los Angeles. Hillside Stranglers are sentenced to life behind bars. Angelo Bono ends up at Calipatria State Prison and dies of a heart attack on September 21st, 2002, at age 67.
The fact that Bono died of a heart attack in prison couldn't happen to a nice guy.
Ken Bianchi was sent back to Washington, and he's currently serving a life sentence in Walla Walla State Penitentiary.
Although it's been over 4 decades since the murders, several film adaptations have been made, including The Case of the Hillside Stranglers, starring Dennis Farina and Billy Zane.
Bono was a sexual predator. Bianchi was a sociopath. That was a relationship.